Good morning, friends. Welcome to a press conference announcing the launch of the Born Perfect North Carolina campaign to protect LGBTQ youth, and also to respond to the historic introduction of 3 LGBTQ bills at the North Carolina General Assembly this morning. Our event here in Asheville is part of a statewide launch that began in Raleigh and has now traveled west across the state. We're honored and thrilled to have partners from the faith community and a broad coalition backing the Born Perfect campaign, including civil rights groups, LGBTQ organizations, mental health advocacy groups, and faith communities and youth advocates coming together. We'll have prepared comments from several speakers and then opportunities for media to do individual interviews if you'd like to do that as well. So let us begin, and our first speaker is Guillermo Rodriguez from Equality North Carolina.
Good afternoon. My name is Guillermo Rodriguez, and I am the former chair of the Equality North Carolina Board of Directors. Equality North Carolina has been championing the rights of the LGBT community since 1979. I'm honored to represent Equality North Carolina on this very special occasion. 3 bills will be introduced today at the General Assembly. The Mental Health Protection Act, sponsored by our own representatives Susan Fisher and Senator Terry Van Dyne, will put an end to the discredited mental health practice commonly referred to as conversion therapy. The bill will protect youth and vulnerable adults from this dangerous and discredited practice aimed at changing their sexual orientation or gender identity. It protects young people and adults from state-licensed therapists who falsely claim that being LGBTQ is a mental illness. These unethical mental health professionals take advantage of parents and harm vulnerable youth and disabled adults. Their harmful practices use rejection, shame, and psychological abuse to force children to try and change who they are. The children and families of North Carolina have a right to expect that a therapist practicing under a license from the state will not put them at risk of depression, substance abuse, or suicide. The second bill being introduced today will fully repeal HB3. Since 2016, North Carolina has been in a conversation with itself about just how much discrimination is the right amount. After a nationwide backlash against this now infamous hateful bill, the legislature passed a Band-Aid called HB 142. So just how much discrimination against our community is the right amount? HB 142 forbids cities from passing any non-discrimination ordinance until December of 2020. And even then, it would forbid cities from passing non-discrimination ordinances that include provisions requiring equal access to bathroom facilities for the transgender community. So much for local control. Under HB 142, LGBTQ and especially transgender people are denied basic civil rights protections. 20 states have already enacted and successfully implemented these laws to allow transgender people to use the restroom that matches their gender. There has been no increase in public safety incidents in restrooms in any of the states. Let's be real. 21% of North Carolina respondents in a U.S. transgender survey faced such severe mistreatment as a transgender person that they left a K-12 school. School policy should protect students from this mistreatment, not promote it. And finally, we seek equality for all. It is hard for many people to believe that it's still legal in North Carolina, under North Carolina law, to fire a hardworking employee, deny someone an apartment, deny them service at a restaurant, or otherwise discriminate against someone because they are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. Protecting people from discrimination is about treating others as you want to be treated. We need to focus on what we have in common, taking pride in our work, respecting co-workers, providing good service to customers. All people should have an equal shot at earning a living, providing for their families, and living free from the fear of harassment and discrimination. A growing majority of North Carolinians, 66%, support passing these protections. Now is the time to pass comprehensive non-discrimination protections that protect all North Carolinians from discrimination regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. In closing, I often refer to our state's motto, "Esse quam videre," to be rather than to seem. North Carolina is no longer the state that I grew up in. It seems to have put aside the values of fairness and equality for all. Passing these 3 bills will help create a state where we can, once again, be safe, be respectful, and be progressive. Thank you.
How grateful. Do I need to say who I am? I'm Kim Buchanan. I pastor First Congregational in Asheville. And how grateful we were for the invitation from the Campaign for Southern Equality and Equality North Carolina to host today's press conference. How good, how right, how perfect to gather in a sanctuary, this place where we learn that Jesus loves us. This place where we learn that Jesus loves all the little children. This place where we learn to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. This place where we learn to love our neighbors as ourselves. In fact, I can think of no better place than a house of worship to announce the good news that there are before our state legislature 3 bills affirming the dignity and beauty of God's creation in every person, including a proposal to ban therapeutic practices designed not to affirm but to do violence to the image of God in some of God's children. I name my support for these initiatives because, as a pastor, I have seen the deep psychological damage done by restrictive laws for our LGBTQ friends. I've counseled many people who have been told they were wrong simply because of who they are. I have sat with trans friends, grieving over the loss of another of their friends to violence or suicide. I am happy and proud to be here today because my faith calls me to do whatever I can to affirm the dignity and beauty of every person. Deep in my heart, I know Jesus would be here today. Deep in my heart, I know Jesus is here today. And y'all, I'm talking from my Christian faith perspective. Deep in my heart, I know Jesus is in this room today, loving each one of us, loving all the little children just as they were born. Because all God's children were born in love. All God's children were born to be loved. What I'm trying to say is all God's children were born perfect. Hear, hear. Amen. Whatever we can do in our community and our state to affirm the beauty of God's creation in every person, that is what we are here to do. And many faith communities in Asheville. And we do so as an unapologetic act of faith. Thank you.
I am Carmen Ramos-Kennedy, president of the Asheville-Buncombe branch, NAACP. I will make a brief statement. The Asheville-Buncombe County NAACP supports the introduction and passing of Mental Health Protection Act. Conversion therapy has many variations. No matter what form it comes in, the young person experiencing it is being told that who they are and who they love is wrong or evil or vile. You can imagine all the negative words and terminology inflicted on them and the harmful persuasion tactics used. This so-called therapy poses as a real threat to one's mental health, self-esteem, and can be a matter of life and death. For LGBTQ youth who report efforts by their parents or outside intervention to change their sexual orientation, their suicide rates increase by 63%. Nothing about this is acceptable. Every single LGBTQ youth is born absolutely perfect.
Good morning again. My name is Reverend Jasmine Beach Ferrara. I'm the Executive Director of the Campaign for Southern Equality and a minister in the United Church of Christ. The Campaign for Southern Equality is based here in Asheville. We work across North Carolina and the entire South to advocate for full LGBTQ equality in every sphere of life. Just a few years ago, North Carolina became the epicenter of anti-LGBTQ legislation, with shameful measures like HB 2 and Amendment 1 directly targeting and attacking LGBTQ people. But during this time, we never stopped doing what we have always done, which is to live our lives with pride, to organize, to register voters and to vote, to have kitchen table conversations about why these issues matter so much, and above all else, to lift up a vision of what's possible in North Carolina when we come together around our core values of hope, dignity, and equal opportunity for all. What we see every day in our work at the Campaign for Southern Equality is that North Carolina and communities across the entire South are changing because of the courage and resilience of LGBTQ people and our allies. As a lesbian, a minister, and the leader of CSE, I know that the historic slate of bills filed at the North Carolina General Assembly this morning will have a very real impact starting immediately on the lived and legal equality of our community. Laws, even when they are bills that have been introduced, have a teaching effect. And these three bills teach a critical lesson. One that is already fundamentally true, which is that LGBTQ people were born equal, made equal, and will be equal every single day of our lives. One of these laws would finally remove the stain of HB 2, a law that tried to restrict access to public spaces for our trans brothers and sisters. One of these laws would ensure that LGBTQ people in our state don't have to worry every single day about the possibility of being evicted or fired simply for being who they are or loving who they love. And the other bill would send the message to all LGBTQ youth that we see them, we love them, we support them, and we are here to ensure they are safe and affirmed and have every opportunity to grow into their full potential. The Born Perfect North Carolina campaign that we're launching with Equality North Carolina today addresses one of the most foundational attacks on the LGBTQ community, the ugly myth that we can and should be changed. It's important to recognize that so many of the attacks on our community are linked, rooted in a foundational desire to hide us and to erase us. Think about it. The company that fires someone because of who they are. The business that refuses to sell something to a same-sex couple. The so-called conversion therapist who tries to force someone to change a core, innate part of themselves. The North Carolina lawmakers who try to tell transgender folks that they can't use the restroom. I and we are here today to tell you we will never be erased. We will never hide our authentic selves. We will never retreat from public life or from telling a story we know to be true. We're going to keep speaking out. We're going to keep organizing. We will keep voting in every single election, and we will keep telling our stories. And we are sure going to do everything in our power, every last thing in our power, to make sure that LGBTQ youth in every town across North Carolina know they are loved. In all of this, we are going to stay relentlessly hopeful. We know that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, and we know it never bends on its own. It bends because of how we show up each and every day. We know people's minds and hearts and spirits change on this issue. We know because we've seen it happen again and again in our own lives and families. And we see it happen every single day in our work across North Carolina and the South. And that is why we will keep digging deep, to push for the passage of these bills, absolutely, but also to create a North Carolina where no matter who you are, no matter the color of your skin, the income of the family you were born into, the country you were born in, the language you speak at home, your sexual orientation, your gender identity, your faith tradition, no matter who you are loved and you have every opportunity to thrive. Today marks an important milestone in our journey to full equality. And rest assured, we will not stop until we get there. Thank you. For members of the media, this concludes the prepared remarks. If there are folks that you'd like to interview individually, the speakers will be available for comment. For everyone who has joined us today, and especially for folks who are part of the Born Perfect Coalition, we can't thank you enough. And you can also become part of the Born Perfect Coalition by going to our website and signing on as an individual or organization. This is a statewide campaign that launched in Raleigh and Asheville this morning and is growing to every corner of the state. So thank you all so much. Thank you all so much, and onward.
Thank you.